So we're excited to be talking about AI-powered campaigns and democratizing voter contact and analysis. And so who we are, I formerly taught in HISD in the Houston Independent School District. You might have seen it in the national headlines because the governor of Texas took it over. Also worked with a South Asian political advocacy group called Desi Blue, and I currently am a renewable energy developer. And yeah, you can follow me on Karthik for Texas if you're interested. I'll turn it over to Myles, who has really done some amazing work in the political space.
All right. Thank you so much, Karthik. So my name is Myles Bugbee. I'm a digital strategist. I've worked with campaigns and causes all across the country. I was fortunate enough to work with Deepak in 2018 with Senator John Tester's re-election campaign in Montana. And he's one of the 3 remaining red state Democrats in the United States Senate. And so I've worked with large-scale campaigns, but what I'm really excited about today is to talk about what we can all do at the local level and everywhere from the State House to the White House to run really innovative and effective digital campaigns.
And this guy's not giving himself enough credit. That Tester race, John, Donald Trump was in Montana constantly, trying to get rid of him, and they still pulled it out, and they did really amazing work there. And I'm excited. I feel like if we want to build this multi-ethnic coalition that's going to flip, red states, keep purple states blue, and push referendums and stuff forward, it's going to be about creating multi-ethnic coalitions, and that's why we think AI is going to be a really powerful part of that. And so before we start, just wanted to sort of ask y'all, raise your hand if you have seen AI in the media or generative AI. Okay, keep your hand up if you have, or you can take it down, then we'll just go back up. It's a little too hard, bicep workouts. So put your hand up again if you have used generative AI at any point. Oh, it's a very tech-savvy crowd. And now, raise your hand if you've used it as part of a campaign outreach effort so far. Boom, right here. Okay, so a couple more. And so our goal is by the end of the session, everyone will have their hand raised if they're interested in voter advocacy. So I'll turn over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. So today, just kind of a brief overview. We're going to go over, as we were talking about, AI kind of best practices, how it can be applied directly to campaigns. And the goal of the session is to have everyone feel empowered to not only just use it in your day-to-day life, but use it effectively in campaigns. We had, in a previous session, one of the speakers in the audience did a great job of talking about how you can use this for fundraising. You can use this for direct voter contact. You can use this for organizing. You can use this for planning, advertising campaigns. And think about it as the best intern you've always wanted to have. So we'll turn it back to Karthik.
Well, actually, I think this is yours.
Okay, I'll take this. So the introduction here, one thing is I'm hoping everyone is actively looking at the images and looking at this presentation because there may be a reveal at the end of this presentation. So just keep that in mind. So just kind of a little bit of background here. If we kind of think about how campaigns typically operate at the larger scale, we often have multi-million-dollar operations. We have professional experts. We have all sorts of people who are putting in a lot of work. But there are thousands of offices across the country, thousands of offices, and many of these people can't afford their own David Axelrod or their Karl Rove. And so how can we truly not just democratize how we speak to voters, but democratize how we run campaigns so everyone can be truly effective in reaching and mobilizing populations all across the board? And that's really what we're going to kind of delve into today. Excellent. And then so this basically kind of looks at, this is just sort of a little bit of a diagram that breaks some of this down. I think the really important thing here is to think about how much of your workday is spent doing things that are routine tasks. How much of your day is spent cleaning up spreadsheets, organizing data, versus actually analyzing data? How much time is actually spent inputting information? How much time is spent doing things that you would love to free up to do the high quality work, which is actually speaking directly to voters, speaking to donors, speaking to volunteers, having those kinds of conversations that make all the difference. And this is what AI can really help us do. And it also can help us do the sorts of things in terms of messaging that right now we do at a much broader level, at a granular personal level, that kind of one-to-one targeting. And that's been something that's been out of reach even for the largest campaigns and increasingly will likely be in reach in the 2024 cycle.
And I'm sure some of y'all are looking at the graphics and being like, huh? And you're definitely supposed to feel a sense of uncanny valley there. Yes. And so as part of the AI, obviously you could go onto YouTube and find any person talking about it nowadays. But what we wanted to do especially was have a specific spin on how South Asians can think about AI. So one of the things that we're going into like an increasing dialogue about is like machine versus human. And what we would argue is that machines should be helping humans do best what humans are already doing effectively. So like as a South Asian, you can see the true diversity of South Asian. This is just linguistic diversity, right? You have like Tamil, Odia, like Sindhi, like Kashmiri, and I'm not going to say this chart is completely valid for all of the different regions of South Asia, but like we are part of a very diverse group, right? And you acknowledge and go through that diversity as a South Asian. And basically, when you're running for office, you're trying to get to 51%. That's creating different coalitions and bringing all those coalitions together and finding messages about that. So that your hidden strength as a South Asian candidate, actually raise your hand if you are thinking about running for office or have run for office in this room. Okay, raise your hand if you're thinking about helping people who are running for office. Okay, lots of y'all should also think about running for offices too. And I'm just going to say this as a man, we need more women in office, so please run. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is like I'm a Hindu American, right? But I know, this is Eid, like Adab Arz, Assalamu Alaikum, right? I know how to say like Sat Shri Akal. I know about the tenets of Jainism. As somebody who is South Asian, and all of you understand on a day-to-day basis how to interact with different groups. All you're doing is taking that extraordinary skill and understanding and applying that to the United States, which is in many ways not gonna, be as linguistically diverse perhaps, but is just as diverse in all the different types of communities that you're bringing together to get to that 51%. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that with AI right now. And so this is just a random sort of from Pew, right? And you can see these are all different groups. These groups are not exclusive, right? There's white evangelicals who make up like the vast majority of Republican, like the vast majority of white evangelicals vote Republican, but at the same time, 17% of white evangelicals are voting Democrat, right? You can see right here, black women, 87% of them vote for Democrats, but 7% vote for Republicans. No group is a monolith, and every voter is an individualized snowflake. And yeah, right? I know snowflake is always used in all these like connotations nowadays, but they're just individualized. So every individual is both an individual and a part of a group. And ideally, you should be having, let's say you're trying to win in a Democratic primary, you're going to have to be reaching out to a lot of these different groups. And these groups might have different issues that they care about, right? And so obviously some of these are like religiously affiliated, right? There's a lot of like atheist or people in the Northeast that live like together, right? Or there's black women who are atheists, right? So all this will not necessarily add up to, it's a greater than 100. But what we ideally could be doing, instead of just having one big ad that you apply to everybody, is really targeting groups and trying to have customized messages to the electorate. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. And so that's what AI can help you do. This is just one example of something that we've looked at. And so winning in the United States requires winning over diverse coalitions, as we've talked about. And so one of the things that I have experimented with in a thing that I cannot talk about because this is a 501c3 organization that may or may not be happening, is I have given this is OpenAI's thing, and I have given my policies, I have given some of the speeches that I've written. I've given like some very personal stuff, right? Like when my father-in-law died, I gave the speech that I wrote because that's my voice. When my friend ran for office, I gave the speech that I gave in front of his favor, right? I've given all the policies that may or may not be in the thing that I cannot talk about, and given it to this AI and said, "Will you acknowledge that you know this?" It says yes. And so then, let's say hypothetically you are a candidate and you're running, and you need to win a general election, and you have all these different coalitions, right? You have self-identified progressives, and I think we're having a little bit of formatting issues right here. Yeah, so if you see self-identified progressives, these are the issues that they care about. Climate change, do you mind, like, yeah. Climate change is number one for that group of voters, and then healthcare, I think, is what should come up if you swivel. Yeah, universal healthcare, right? And then you go to the next sort of set of groups. Let's say a lot of it is also college-educated women, and the number two top issues, like you don't want to be talking necessarily about climate change because that's not their issue that they're passionate about, right? Let's say it's universal background checks for guns because people are very tired of worrying about their children's safety, right? And then if you check the number 2 issue, it's, let's say, reproductive freedom, right? And then if you go on a little bit more, you could say, let's say this is a district, and maybe this is actually like California. I feel like California would have a district like this, right? Like in SoCal, right? You have to get Latino Catholics, college-educated suburbanites, and like, you know, let's say this is a hypothetical district, and you're like, okay, education is something that's passionate about, universal healthcare, and you need to get some kind of rural swing vote too, right? And so you're like, okay, these rural, probably leaning conservative voters are going to care about supporting public schools. I know in Texas we have a big like defunding public schools movement that's happening, and so maybe these rural voters actually do care. It's a swing issue. We just talk about supporting public schools. You don't want to talk to them about climate change because that's not something they're passionate about necessarily, right? I'm not saying that people shouldn't be authentic selves to everyone, but the way I think about politics is sort of like you're meeting your in-laws for the first time, and you're gonna be the most authentic, best version of yourself for each of your in-laws, but you're not gonna, you know, talk to the sister-in-law about the same issues they talk to the father-in-law about, right? Since we're South Asians, I knew that everyone wants to talk about marriage, right? So sorry, sore topic, I imagine. So rural broadband for rural areas as well as like hospital funding. So this is something we did. We said, here's this table, generate a tailored response given what you know about these issues, just given this table, and like given the previous knowledge that you've received in this campaign. This is what it does. It creates tailored messaging for every single group. What was the question? Just give us a response that's tailored to like each one of them. Like an email, let's say you want to do a customized email because you know the original prompt. The original prompt. Can you develop a tailored response and message to each one of these groups? Obviously, we wouldn't say, dear Latino Catholics. Like that's probably, yeah. So it's like, boom, you're not gonna say, dear college-educated woman. But you'll say, like, care about universal health care, staunch protector of reproductive freedom, education, universal health care, how can we talk about all this stuff? And you can even add in languages and say, could you throw in a little bit of Spanglish? Can you do the Spanish with a little bit of Mexican-American slang? It will do these things. Like, you can actually, even for South Asian voter outreach, you could say, here's the campaign, could you come up with 20 different slogans for all of the linguistic groups? In Punjabi, could you do it in Gurumukhi and also Shahmukhi in Urdu script? It will do that. It will create these. Could you make it in the form of a poem like that references some Bulle Shah or something? It will make that for you. That is how powerful this technology is. And other opposing political parties that we cannot talk about, perhaps in 501c3s, will also be using this technology, and so you need to be thinking about it as well. So this is just one tool, OpenAI, which I have been experimenting with, and I promise you there's many more beyond that.
Definitely. So as we just saw in that show and tell exercise, like there are so many ways that we can use this to personalize the way that we connect and contact voters and really have real conversations that make a difference. And so just kind of looking through this, like for a large scale campaign, maybe like a statewide campaign, there are all sorts of different consultants that you have. But the main thing is that even if you have all these people working with you, there's a limitation in terms of the kinds of contact that people can do. Often we have broadcast messages. If you're trying to create multiple ads, that's very cost intensive. There's a review process. It's expensive. And so part of what we're thinking about is as we get closer to 2024, we're in the early stages of this tech. We're going to be able to do the sort of stuff that Karthik was showing where we break down segments of voters. We feed in information from block watts, from canvases, from text messages, from Facebook comments. All of this will give people the ability to really have much more tailored conversations with all sorts of communities of people. And as we saw previously, we don't just wear one hat. We have so many identities. I mean, there are people who in one aspect of their life, you could look at them in a box and you could say, well, they're likely to be a Republican, or well, not political parties, but they're likely to be a red person or a blue person or a green person. And so essentially this can kind of help us go deeper than that. And also, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, think about it as your editor, as your co-pilot, as somebody who can be there along the way with the journey for you. You as an individual have unique lived experiences that no one else has, and that cannot be replaced. But imagine if you had someone who could be a force multiplier for you, and that's the real value as we see it.
Yeah, so I mean, the way I think about it is like, imagine if you had a tireless Harvard intern that doesn't talk about how they went to Harvard the whole time, in in a box, in a box. And so like AI can democratize this because right now, like it is the case that like, oh, you have to call your DC consultant. Not to say that DC consultants are bad, like they're great, but like, if you're running for a school board race, you don't have access to the same tools that somebody else has, or even like some of the state ledge races, right? But your race is just as important. And so AI can also do things predictively, where you could give it data and just say, okay, given all of this data, what would you suggest should be strategies, and incorporate them. And that's one of the really powerful things that it can do.
All right, so it seems like we have a very tech-savvy crowd in here, so this is a slide that we can sort of gloss over, but hopefully by now you've noticed something in this slide. So it's not just the actual input where you can kind of talk with the interface. It actually, now there are plugins, and so this is one of the big changes. I mean, this tech is moving so fast. Like, the conversation that we're having today will be very different than the conversation that we're having in 6 months. Now you can connect it to tools. So there are tools like Zapier, where you can basically have different tools and apps talk to each other, and so you can move data from Google Sheets into Van. That's going to save people a lot of time if you have like an event where people are just signing up. It's a sign-up sheet. You want to save that in Vote Builder. You also are able to have it browse the internet. So previously, this was a constraint with ChatGPT, where people were like, it was only up to date to late 2021. Now you can get it up to date to 2023. So this is very exciting development. And we're gonna, y'all know who we are at this point, hopefully. So as we've talked about, this is just a really brief description. So when we were working on to speak broadly speaking, if you were looking for information about news outlets, let's say in Houston, you may know what the Houston Chronicle is, because that's a well-known paper. But how many people in this room have heard of the Baytown Sun? There we go. All right, excellent. We've got some Texans in this room. I love it. But most people may not. What you can do is you can ask a prompt. Be your research assistant. Tell me the names of these places. What are the communities that the papers serve? What are their websites? And so all this information is there and generated in seconds. And so it helps you do so much more. If you don't have staff, if you don't have a comms director, you're just getting started out of the box, this can help you. So just talking again about the talented editor thing, it's hard to read this. It's a really small font. The important thing here is that we took a news article, and then we basically we gave it information about an individual who was running for office, and then we had it create draft tweets based on that. So imagine we're teaching it the voice of the individual and saying, okay, this is the article, here's what the person believes, now how would they react to that article? And so this saves so much time. Were these the tweets that were posted in the end? No, but they were a very strong foundation. And that's incredible. This happened in seconds. So again, major time saver, and also a thought partner. It brings up angles that you may not have thought of.
And this is one that we didn't put on there, but there is a reporter who reached out to an endeavor that one of us might be doing, and about an interview. We used AI to ask it, like, come up with like 25 questions this reporter would ask using what you know. The reporter in real life asked like 23 of those questions. So like every single question was like, oh, this one, this one, this one, this one. Like, we're not saying that humans aren't like useful, like, but together, AI with human intelligence is a power to be reckoned with, especially on political campaigns where people like spend so much time and money talking with people. Like, you have your intuition, and this can magnify your intuition. And it can also help you do multi-ethnic and linguistic campaigns.
Exactly. But before we get too far on the hype train, we want to have a cautionary note. How many people in this room have heard the term hallucinations in relation to AI? Okay, good. This is really important. This is why never take, it's a verify before you trust policy with AI at this point, because oftentimes it is a predictive engine. If you think about how large language models work, they're statistical models in terms of how they're thinking about what is the next word, what is the next bit of information that's most likely to be the plausible answer. And so it'll often want to please humans who are entering information. And so you have to check to make sure information is correct. One lawyer actually submitted cases that didn't even exist in a legal brief. So it's very important to check your work with AI. Also, think about sensitive information. Unless you're using like a local LLM, so you have something that's air-gapped, that's not connected to the internet, if you put in sensitive information, that's being saved in the training data that the model is using. So it's very important to, unless it's something that you want to share publicly, think twice about sensitive information. And then, as we've been saying throughout this presentation, it won't replace you, it extends you.
Yeah, and I guess just another cautionary thing, maybe one of the ways to think about it is the fact that like Like, let's say you said, you gave it a prompt, and you said, give me 10 ways that nuclear fission happens. There's only one actual way if you're like a science person, right? Like how, atoms collide, break apart, blah, blah, blah. But it will come up with 9 other ways. So give it hedge room as you're talking. Could you? Is it possible? Is something there? Give it the ability, because it will actively try and optimize for exactly what you ask. But if what you're asking is an absolute that it's not possible to constrain for, it will make up stuff to go along with it. Like, it's like a person, it's like a genie. And it will do exactly what you ask it to do. So be very careful. And
Yep. So I'm a big fan. Dr. Ethan Mollick on Twitter has done tremendous work in sort of breaking down how to make AI work for you. And I know we're running a little bit short of time here, so to summarize it for folks, I think this is a very useful framework. So think about these 4 kinds of tasks that you do in your day-to-day life. So the kinds of things that only you can do based on your knowledge of your job, based on your knowledge of your particular domain, that's the unique part that you bring to your job. Do not give that to AI, because that's what makes you different. The delegated tasks, these are things where it's like, okay, AI can help me with something. So it can help me with a first draft of a press release. It can help me with tweets. It can help me with some of these pieces, which I need an extra set of eyes on. I need an intern. The centaur tasks are the things that are sort of hybrid things, where can it basically be a thought partner for you? Like if you're thinking about a new business plan, if you're thinking about your fundraising plan, how can you, these are things where it helps to have somebody else in the room for you, and you may not have a team of those people. So there it can be your thought partner. And then what I'm excited about is the automated tasks. These are the drudgery parts of our jobs. We all do it. We have to get through it, like whether it's email replies just to confirm a meeting time, those sorts of things. Automate that away so you can focus on the part of your work that makes you passionate about what you do.
yeah, and in conclusion, these are all, the entire presentation was AI generated, as I'm sure you figured out. Like, I think the actual text that we put in based off the prompt was like maybe 5% of this was words that we put in. All of this presentation was AI generated. Like, we didn't make these words up. That's why there might have been a weird flow sometimes. You're like, why is there a case study in the middle after I already talked about it? And these images are obviously kind of weird, right? It's supposed to say AI, but it says Al. So we think it's a powerful tool, but we lend a cautionary warning. My name is Karthik, and this is Myles, and thank you so much for having us.
All right, thank you all. And we're going to save questions till the end, so we can get through everyone. Next up, sticking with tools, we have someone, Deepak Puri, here with us, who is a Silicon Valley veteran, but also the founder of an organization called Democracy Labs. If you haven't heard of them, you need to go and look at their website. They're on the cutting edge of finding new tools and affordable and free tools for campaigns to use, organizations to use, to be able to reach out to voters, optimize their work. And every one of the panelists, I think, when we announced Deepak, has said they've worked with him before. So that tells you that he's someone that you definitely need to look up. So with that, I'll hand it to Deepak.
Thanks, Sahir. Before I get started, let me just share my story. I used to work in Silicon Valley, and I've been in the country over 38 years. My wife is back there. That's exactly how long we've been married. I didn't think much of politics. I thought, oh, they're all a bunch of crooks. There's nothing I can do, and like most people from Asia, like, oh, don't mess around with politics. Then, when the 2016 election happened, it was a wake-up call for both me and my wife. We decided we have to do something. And so we figured, like, what can we do? And then it kind of struck us that why is it that the other side is so much better at technology and storytelling? And we said, look, given Silicon Valley and Hollywood, this is not right. So we created a non-for-profit called the Democracy Labs. It's a very small, self-funded non-for-profit. And what we try and do is find the best innovative tools for progressive politics and campaigns around storytelling, targeting. The unique thing is most of the tools we share and test are free. And these tools are out there. So it's not something I sit down and write, it's something which is out there. And the way we work is And I've been doing this almost full-time now for 7 years, 2016 to now. And I have a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. We work with lots of different groups around the country, asking them, what is it that you're trying to solve and how can technology help? And typically it breaks down into 3 things, and I'll kind of share some real life examples. We listen to them, we find the tools, I apply them, and then I kind of write up how I did it and how other people can do it and where they can get the tools. I kind of joke, in the market for giving away free tools with free advice, with free consultation, we have an absolute monopoly. No, no one else is doing this, and so the 3 things that I'm going to touch upon are, and most of our people we work with have very little time, very little money, and very little staff. That's the target audience that we're going for. And the problems that we hear most about is, 1, how do I find my potential voters? Targeting. The second thing is, once I've found them, how do I persuade them, give them my message or my story? And the third thing is, how can I get them to go off and vote or do whatever it is I want them to do? Targeting, persuasion, get out the vote. And under each one, there are different tools. So let me just share a few with you, and let's see if we can work this. Tahir, I may need some help advancing these slides. I do work in technology, but PowerPoint, I struggle. Okay. This one? Yep. Okay. All right, thanks. So one of the things which you'll have copies of these slides and the links, and I would suggest go to our website. To begin with, figure on videos are a really, really powerful way to get your message across, but how can you create powerful videos for free quickly? So there's a wonderful app which is free, which is called Lumen 5. And what it does is it has catalog. This is not something I developed. It's out there. You can use it for free. They have hundreds of video clips. You can pick the ones you want. You can add your own captions. You can add your own soundtrack. Let me see if I can, maybe you can help me, Tahir. Yeah. Like, okay. So when you have an issue, let's see if we can get this video to play. All right, let's watch this video. It's 30 seconds. It is dramatic. It's dramatic music. Okay, so let's just pause it. So, couple of things. All right, I'll let it play through. So the important thing is this video was produced in about half an hour. All the clips are off the shelf, so there's no professional photography, and it was done with just a regular old laptop. So you can create your own messages with your own captions, with your own soundtrack, get it out there, put it out on TikTok, YouTube, whatever. So think of tools like Lumen 5 and others. But the important thing is this, and I'll kind of share this briefly, is as a small campaign, like rest assured the other guys have more money and more resources. How do you get mind share for your message? So one thing which we try and do is take something in the news, whether it's a shooting or something. I hate to be, but you want to pick something in the news which is in people's minds in your district. And if you can take that issue while it is still hot, but add your own message to it, whether the rapid response video or something else, and then you put it out on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever, the chances of that message picking up are much better than otherwise. And at the end, you'll notice there was a call to action. All right, let's go on to the next one. So this one was about messaging. The second one, which I'm actually was working with Chanda, is she here? Oh, there she is in the back. Which is a lot of people, unlike this audience, are not interested in politics. They're interested in something that impacts them. And so if I am trying to build a list of people in my community who are potential voters, I want to meet them where they are. Are they interested in gun violence? Are they interested in healthcare? Are they interested in insulin? And with Chanda, the issue that we kind of came up being good Indians is, will my kids get into a good college? Which has nothing to do with politics. But think about it. I'm appealing to a hot button issue that they're interested in. I'm not stereotyping, like, you know, we worry about our daughter too. So, so the thing is, a chatbot is something which is like, oh, do you okay, that's better. Do you want to know how your kid's school is ranks amongst other schools? So Chanda's going to talk about this. But I offer them something which is of interest to them. And they say, oh, text this to this number. And when they text, they get the information they want, but I get their contact information. In Georgia, we did a different one, which is, would you like to know how to keep your kids safe in school in the event of a mass shooting? Text survive to this number, and we'll send you a checklist. It could be anything. And you could even ask them, you know, how many kids do you have, where do you go, blah, blah, blah. So the chatbot is basically an automated program which it works round the clock. It could have as many inquiries as needed, but it's collecting information for you. And as a candidate, once you have that list of people and they opted in, so what opted in means you have the ability to contact them back and they're not going to be considered spamming. So I would say consider chatbots as a list building vehicle. Pick a topic that appeals to your area. In California, we did one which was, do you want to know where the nearest food bank is? Another one which we did, again, this was in Virginia, which is, what is the status of the H-1B visa list? Pick the topic you want because it's something that appeals to them. And on the side there, I won't waste too much time, is basically how the interaction is. It's all through a phone. Let's go on. Now, you know, there's another, this again is a really common tool. Like, I'll give you a different example. If I was Starbucks and I wanted to open up a coffee shop in Georgetown, I would want to know where people who could afford a $5 cappuccino is, when they go to work, where they live, where they work, so on and so forth. So these corporations are really good and like putting the stores where they need to be. Now, as a candidate or an activist, you want to know, where is the highest density of South Asians living in Loudoun County? Or where are the people with the highest veterans who are on insulin and need food stamps? And the technology, there's about, God knows, 200 categories. This is independent of the voter file. So we're basically taking the same tools which companies use for setting up stores and generating sales, but applying them into politics. There's no difference. I know my demographic, because if I'm going to set up, you know, events or other booths or so on, I want to be where the voters are. And so this technology, it's from a company which many of you, I'll put this out there. How many of you have heard of a company called ESRI? Okay, that's better. That's about 10%. This company's been out there for 50 years. They've got 10,000 employees. They do a bang-up job, and it's super affordable. Like a non-for-profit license is about $150 for the year. So you have a tool like this. So what we do is we help groups apply these technologies. The other thing is, you want to let people know where the voting booths are, or something's moved, where should they go? Or they've seen a voter intimidation. So mapping has a lot of applications. All right, let's go on. All right, what I did for this one, this example is an AI-based thing. So just to kind of, I wanted to illustrate the process. There's actually an app which is free, which is called Midjourney. And what you'll notice, let me just squeeze by. So you simply go in and you type in a prompt. So I basically said, give me Mahatma Gandhi looking guy with a smile on his face, wearing traditional Indian clothes, smiling at the camera, right? So it gave me 4 examples. Then what you do is you pick the one that you like the most, and you can say, oh, give me some more variations of this. And these are royalty-free pictures. And so I picked one. Let's see if that video plays. So I'm really disappointed you don't have sound, but watch this. It's basically in my broken Hindi, like, हमें बहुत खुशी है कि आप लोग यहाँ आए हो और ये क्या कहते हो जो हम काम कर रहे हैं डेमोक्रेसी के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. But like the interesting thing here is, let's just okay, when Tahir plays it the second time, what I want you to notice is not only his lips are moving in sync with whatever I said, but notice his eyes, notice the smile, notice the head bobbing and so on. So let's just play it. So this is all synthetically generated and it's free. Now, obviously everyone in this room would only use AI for ethical, proper purposes. I want you to take a vow on that. But the technology for this is Midjourney, and the animation is through a program called Review. Now, what we do on our website is we take new tools as they come out, we explain how they're used, and we tell you how you can get it. On the website now, believe it or not, there's about 1,200 case studies. Stuff related to targeting, chatbots, persuasion, videos, infographics, so on and so forth. We're not trying to hide anything. We tell you where the tools are. So these are just some examples. All right, let's go on. I'll be fast. Okay. I'm okay on time? Yeah, okay. I'll wrap up. So here, like, you'll have this presentation, but I wanted to kind of give you a few ideas. We have online stories, like the example of you're a new candidate. You want to know how to tell your story. So we have some online training courses like that. They're all 3 or 4 minutes long. They're free. I think the power of storytelling is underestimated, and the technology can make it really easy, because the thing is, people don't have the time and patience to read long essays. It has to be crisp, it has to be visual, and nothing better than a video. Now what you can do is create your own video quickly without, spending a lot of money. It's basically free. Videos, the other thing is, if you're going to target, you have limited time and energy, use the mapping to drive home where you want to focus your efforts. The other thing which we like doing is, they're going to cut Medicare, or they're going to cut food stamps, or you're going to have, school student loans are going away. I don't know, I can't compete with that. All right, so use that, and then there's other tools for organizing. So with that, again, just to recap, on our website there's lots of resources. We have a blog that goes out pretty much every day on new tools and how campaigns are using them. Because our goal is, if we can help organizations on the progressive side run a better campaign with less money and less staff, that frees up them to kind of spend less time fundraising and more time campaigning. So that's what we're all about. We do this pro bono, And if we can be helpful, or you have a problem, hey, Deepak, I don't know, or is there a better way to do this? Reach out, and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Deepak. And yes, we have a song class next door as part of it, so you may hear some music for these other organizations as they go. The next discussion point we're going to have is we're going to have two incredible organizations come up and talk about the work being done on the ground. The tools are important, the representation is important, but organizing year-round on the ground and making sure our community has the tools they need, the education they need to keep them coming out to vote is crucial. And these are two organizations Impact has worked with in the past, South Asians for America and SAAVE Texas. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do introductions if that's okay, but we'll have South Asians for America come up first. Thank you. Yep, just this one here. This one. And we'll go to the next one.
So how's everyone doing? Wasn't that it's been an incredible summit. So I know it's been a lot of sessions, but we are all part of South Asians for America, and my name is Harini Krishnan. I'm the National Organizing Chair. And I also wanted to introduce my colleagues. In addition to being the National Organizing Chair for South Asians for America, I was fortunate to be the Grassroots Organizing Chair for South Asians for Biden, and previously a lead volunteer organizer for VP Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. And currently I serve as a founding board member of a PAC that elects women and women of color to state legislatures. It was founded 5 years ago. It's called Fund Her PAC, and we've elected 79 women in 6 states. I also, thank you. And I also serve as an elected delegate and finance co-chair. I know this is C3, but I can't get around it, of the California Democratic Party. So I just wanted to share the lens that I bring. I am joined by my phenomenal colleagues. Sanjay Kumar is our board co-chair. Sanjay is also a phenomenal trailblazer. She co-founded South Asian Bar Association Georgia. She is currently the board chairwoman of Asian Americans Advancing Justice in Atlanta. And I completely blanked. No, it'll come back. It'll come back. Oh, and she was recently recognized by the state of Georgia, by I think Business Times in Georgia, 100 women of influence in the state of Georgia. So this is somebody that I look up to. Anika Rahman is our national candidates chair, chair of our candidates training committee. Anika is also part of the leadership of Bangladeshi Americans for Political Progress, and also the vice chair of the Virginia Democratic Party, API Caucus, Democratic Asian Americans of Virginia. So one of the things we want to share is that SAFA, every one of us, we wear different hats. We're an all-volunteer organization. We all wear different hats, but this is work that we do on an intentional basis, and we come together because we truly do care about, like Deepak said, saving our democracy. So with that, I want to share, hopefully I can go through this. Okay, so who we are. I want to give a shout out to the reason why I joined SAAVE and SAFA, who's actually sitting there. So Neha Divan is who founded South Asians for Biden. Previously, she founded South Asians for Hillary and was, also part of the leadership of South Asians for Obama. So South Asians for America was created in May 2021 as a permanent vehicle to engage voters, right, on a 367 days, 24/7 basis. We're a national volunteer. We have no paid staff. We're a national volunteer grassroots organization. We're dedicated to education, advocacy, mobilization of the South Asian community to build political power. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Perfect. Okay. How do we do what we do? Okay, so with various committees and initiatives, we want to make sure that the voices of all communities, identities, and faiths within the South Asian diaspora are represented at every level of government. This is something we're very intentional about. 62% of our leadership are women. We have people who are Bangladeshi American, Pakistani American, Sri Lankan American, people of all communities and all faiths represented in our leadership, not only in our national leadership, but in our state directors. Because when we talk about elevating South Asian voices, we want to make sure that all the sub-communities and people who identify within that diaspora, including Indo-Caribbean population, who are often not talked about, right, are part of that discussion. Okay, I really want to be there. I am a singer, so maybe if I sing it, you guys will pay attention. I'm like, provide community organizing. Okay, no, I don't know. So what do? So we provide community organizing tools and training and voter education and mobilization resources to engage the South Asian community. And this is where I want to shout out Deepak. Deepak is somebody that I deeply admire. We did a series of community organizing trainings tailored towards the South Asian community last year, and Deepak presented in one of the sessions, and he talked about his geomapping tool, which was just absolutely phenomenal. We established partnerships with key national organizing groups, South Asian, API, and BIPOC advocacy organizations. One of the things, whether it is running for office, political organizing, all of these require coalition building. And so we're very intentional in building those coalitions. For example, we partner with groups like Vote Riders, which addresses voter education and voter protection through voter ID pocket guides. We partner with Run for Something Now, right? We partner with, Tahir, National Democratic Training Committee on trainings and resources. And we partner with groups on the ground that are doing the incredible work, like Save Texas. I always say this, when I look at Chanda, I'm like, okay, you are saving Texas. And then so one of the tenets of what we do is we provide organizing support, training, and resources to South Asian candidates running for office. And this is something that Anika is going to talk about later, and then Sanjui is going to talk about what that meant with respect to Georgia. Sorry, Annie, go back. Okay, so then we also connect with South Asian youth organizations to increase political engagement, and we provide state-specific political advocacy resources and tools. Okay, so where are we? We have established state chapters in 18 states, and we're currently in the process of adding chapters in 5 other states, including South Carolina and Illinois. Okay, you can move on to the next one. Okay, so what have we done? This is something that we're incredibly proud of. We launched in May of 2021, but 2022 midterm election efforts, we were in 12 states. And we partnered with groups on the ground. We partnered with state parties. We partnered with grassroots organizations to turn out the vote. And these are just the numbers in terms of what we were able to achieve just on as a pure volunteer organization. One of the things we're very intentional about is our state directors, or either chairs of the API caucuses of their state parties, or vice chairs, or part of their governors appointed API commissions, or founding API organizations themselves. Okay. We can go into the next one. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anika.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Harini. My name is Anika Rahman. I had the pleasure of being the Deputy Director for Bangladeshis for Biden, for South Asians for Biden, and now I have the immense joy of being the Canada's National Chair and Training Committee. So for ours, we want to make sure that our values are met. Not only do we only want to support South Asians, but South Asians who support their community, but also ensure that they have South Asians in their office who are working and continuing that work in our community. So how our committee looks like, we offer a Google form, and we encourage everybody who's running for office on a national level, local level, municipal level, and we get a Google form that we share with our committee, which is made up of 6 people, which makes me think we don't need one since we have AI. I could just do Opera research. You might not even need me anymore, I'm just saying. And then what we do is we share with our community, we put on our social media, our website, and then we host events. And then what we try to do is make sure that we have a lot of ground support that we spread, whether it's by phone banking, canvassing, or just through mailers or listings. So We have a couple of collaborations and partnerships that we've built. Thank you to Harini for doing so much of that with us. We have over 10,000 South Asian community members nationwide. We also have worked with BIPOC PACs nationwide, Impact Her PAC, Pakistani PAC, Aspire PAC, Asian American Forward PAC, Run for Something. And when it comes to Run for Something and other things, we are now in coalition to provide resources for the community where we allow vendors and other resources at a valuable price, and we discount them to support our local South Asian communities. Am I forgetting? Okay. That's pretty much it. You can move on. Yeah. So a couple of updates we've had in the last just less than 2 years. We've had over 40 candidates apply for endorsement. 2-3 of them were now South Asians, so we had to let them know at this point we're only supporting South Asians. In 2021, when we started, we endorsed 3 candidates. There were first of the 2 were first-time candidates, and 1 of them won. Then 2022, we had 12 endorsed candidates. Out of that, 9 of them were first time, and then we have 5 victorious candidates. 3 of them are state directors. We have one of them here today, Rishi Baga from Florida. And do we have Nabila Islam, who won state Senate in Georgia? I think she stepped out, so she was also one of them. And then this year we have 7 candidates that we've endorsed, 6 first-time candidates, and then 3 of them are also our state directors. So I feel like it's a good sign. We have winners on our team. And one of them are here today, Kanan Srinivas, who's running for state delegate. He stepped out, just kidding. He's not here right now. So that's kind of what our demographics look like in terms of state to state. And then what we wanted to do was really when we have a lot of South Asian women running for office, which is really exciting. And the first time, we have first-time candidates who have won, and then we have candidates who have ran multiple times and are continuing to run. So what we wanted to do is host a virtual event where we talk to those who have won for office. What do they do right? How do we encourage more, and what can they teach others? And then we had another Zoom where we talked about what can be done better, what can we do to support more of our South Asian candidates, and then what can be done differently for them to win office next time. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Anika. So I want to make sure Chanda has time to come up here from Safe Texas. Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. You've heard a lot about Georgia. I'll just tell you that as South Asians for America, we focused on Gwinnett County, Georgia. We had 4 South Asian candidates running from that county, 2 of whom won, 2 of whom didn't. We now have one of the largest, I don't know, I keep saying the largest AAPI caucus in the country, which for Georgia is ridiculous. And Syra is there, one of them, and Nabila was here a second ago. And what we did is just work on the opposite of AI and the opposite of tech. We went back to grassroots. What does that mean? We just showed up in Gwinnett County with samosas and mango juice and went into offices. We trained voters on on the minivan. We trained voters on various phone banking software, and we also ourselves just matched people up and went out and knocked on South Asian and Asian American voters' doors. I cannot tell you how many people told us, first time I've seen anyone here, first time I've seen anyone who looks like you here, first time anyone's called me, first time anyone said my name right when they call me. It makes an incredible amount of difference. We think we had a lot to do with our wins in Gwinnett County, but we partnered with lots of folks. We partnered with the Democratic Party. We partnered with a whole, I chair a C3 that has a C4, so the C3s and the C4s were out there too, just mobilizing voters. So as much as technology was a part of the mix and will be much more a part of the mix, and maybe Anika will be out of a job, but I think those of us, but one very important point, and Syra made it at the last thing, state level directors has been the key to our success. People helicoptering in and trying to understand our landscape is a huge mistake. Please don't do it. Please partner with those on the ground, because not only do you piss us off when you do that, you don't want to alienate the groups that are doing the work on the ground. So please partner with the groups on the ground. I think that was our biggest lesson in the 5 elections that we had in Georgia between 2020 and 2022. No more runoffs is our mantra. I think I'm just going to turn it right over to Chanda so she has a few minutes to talk about Save Texas. Thank you.
Yes, and we have one amazing speaker left, but I promise you this organization is doing incredible work on the ground 365 days a year. Impact has partnered with Save Texas over the past few years, the Save Texas Education Fund. So I'm going to hand over to Chanda, and I'll open your slides for you.
Okay, I'm going to be really fast and quick. So we are Save Texas Education Fund, which is our C3. Our C4 is Save Texas, and then this is our mission statement: to increase the civic engagement of Texas's South Asian community through education, engagement, and empowerment. And we're going to try to do this. Is there no music? Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I'm going to compete. And it's really peppy, and it would have woken you up because we needed coffee right about now, but it has really peppy music to go with it. But yeah, please do.
Where did you play this? Like, where was it?
We use this at like house parties, and
Oh, this
it's
is
a lot. There's a longer version of this, and somebody cut this down, and even when they cut it down, it's still not short enough. But so I'll just kind of talk while it's going on.
Statewide
We are a
organization.
statewide organization.
We started this organization
out of the
DFW area.
out of the
5
DFW
moms were
area.
really mad about what happened
really
in
mad about what happened
2016.
in 2016.
And we started registering
we started
our voters,
registering
and in the
our
process
voters,
of
and in the
registering our
process of
voters,
registering our
the
voters,
stories
we started to hear the
of
stories
discrimination, especially after the 2016
election. And so we knew that we had to do something more than just register voters. And then we wondered, we wonder if there are other South Asians across the state that might be interested. So we started a Facebook page, and the first post was, can 200 people like this page? In 6 weeks, we had 6,000 South Asians come to our page.
Wow.
And what we started to learn very quickly is that there was not an investment in the South Asian community. Because first we wanted to see if somebody was already doing something, and we were like, well, where are all the Obama people, and where's all the Obama structures? And with every campaign, the structures come, and then they go. And so then we're left with nothing. And so the premise of this organization is to remain present 365 days a year. Sorry, how do I not redo this? So the work that we do is 365 days a year. That's our screaming aunties. So this is, yeah. So we knew that we had to do this 365 days a year. So running for office is a huge undertaking. And today's presentation is sort of the work that we're doing to mobilize people. And it's probably not necessarily the voters that you might be able to reach, because in Texas what happens is you have your primaries in March, and then you probably have a runoff, and then you have June. And by the time June comes to election time, you have like 4.5 months. And so what happens is that you start talking to those people with the lowest hanging fruit. And so that leaves a whole bunch of people out of the process. So what happens when that, there's two types of mobilization. One is transactional. And transactional is what happens when most candidates are running for office, because they have a limited amount of time, they have a limited amount of money, and so you're going to go for the people that have really good voting records, and you're not going to talk to those, you're not going to talk to the U.S. citizen who's 45 years old and just became a citizen because he doesn't have a voting record, and why is he so old and he's never voted? So he often gets overlooked. So what we're working on doing is doing something that's transformative, and that's changing the process of how we're moving. I'm going to skip through some slides so that I can get everybody out.
Oh, I love this. Guys posting on WhatsApp, get voters to the polls.
They're screaming out to me. Yeah, I'm just going to try to talk as loud as I can. So if you look in the middle, that's our SAVE Texas universe. And so over the last 7 years, we have been able to mobilize and create an activist community. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get everybody else out there. And so when we're like the program that Deepak was saying that we work with him, like we were trying to figure out how to get those people outside of our universe. So we got this little thing that says, are you interested in how your high school ranks and will it get your child ready for college? And we started posting in random Facebook places because they're not allowed to post about politics in lots of places. So we went to like Desi's of Houston and Desi's of Austin and the places where they sell saris and their cell phones and they're doing karaoke. These are people that are not in our universe, and we started posting on there. And so what happens when they click on it, then I get their name, their first name, their last name, and their phone number. So it just happens to be that we were in the middle of a municipal election. So if they're interested in something about their school, then we text them back and go, don't forget, there's a municipal election happening and you need to come out and vote, and this is the day that you need to vote. And school board races are on there. So that's how we were trying to expand the universe and trying to get those voters out there. This is kind of, Texas, we learned from this convention, has its own unique problems. And so in March 2022, and this is talking about how we get marginalized from people that aren't always being contacted. So you can see that there were 211,000 ballots for mail-in ballots. We don't have national mail-in. We don't have broad mail-in ballots if we're over the age of 65 or physical disabilities to do that. But look at how many ballots were accepted, 199,000. But look at the number of people that voted in person, 338. I mean, it's like the numbers are really sad. And oftentimes it was people that were rejected because of names, but our community was impacted directly. We had a lot of conversations happening in our community about people's ballots that were rejected. So I said earlier that oftentimes when you're running a campaign, people often go for the low-hanging fruit. So in Texas, the average voting age is in somewhere between 60 and 65. And that is by design. And so what SAVE Texas is doing is really looking at those other age groups and trying to capitalize on that. Also, as I mentioned earlier, 60 to 65, they're often Caucasian, and so we are also missing out on the different ethnicities that should have a larger stake in Texas. I should mention back again on the lack of resources. I'm going to go back to this slide. Lack of resources. When we first started this organization in 2010, we asked how many South Asians are there on the voter rolls, and they told us that there were 10,000 South Asians on the voter rolls. Okay, I told them that was wrong, because 25 years earlier, I had 800 people at my wedding, and so to tell me that there are 10,000 people on the voter rolls is absolutely wrong, because I could tell visually that there were more of us. But that means that nobody's investing in us, and people are like, oh, you're really cute, but we don't really consider you a voter, because you guys don't really vote. And in 2014, only 20% of our population came out to vote. And so through Sri Kulkarni, who actually sat there and helped us identify each and every voter, in 2018 we were able to identify 135,000. So he lost his race, but SAVE Texas continued the work in building out the voter rolls, and currently we have 300,000 South Asians on our voter rolls. So that's really a powerful number, because all of a sudden, people are now like, oh, that's a lot of people, and what do we need to do to help mobilize you? So it is, when we want investment in our community, we need to make sure that we have the data to back it, and we also need to be mobilizing our community. This is just an interesting statistic. Our graphics, I just wanted to show everybody that we're always trying to cater to our community. But this is another group of people that we are trying to organize with. And the difference between what happens, like the reason that we don't work with candidates, we're not allowed because we're C3 and C4, but you know, we have the opportunity to do the other work. So when we're talking to these people, some of these people, it takes like an hour conversation to get a new voter. They're very scared sometimes. I've never voted before. I don't know if I'm going to make the wrong decision. And so we literally have teams of people who are talking to people like this. We have a team that's about to organize. We had 7,000 people in 2020 who registered to vote but have never voted in an election since 2020. So we have a whole team that's gonna be calling them, and they're gonna spend like an hour or two. You can't do that if you're in this, like in the middle of a campaign doing it. So we're gonna be doing all that hard work in between. As I mentioned earlier, in 2014, only 20% of our population came out to vote, but in 2020, we had almost 73% of our population in Texas. Just kind of summarizing, like the number of calls. So we do have people that we do hire to do making phone calls, but they're transactional. So they're going to be like, well, you have to make so many calls in an hour. But when our team, because our team is broken up, Texas is really large. It's 4.5 states, like 4.5 Georgias. And so we break up by counties, and within each county, we have people that are working their own precincts. So when we have somebody that's making a call, like, will you come out to vote? You know, they're going to have a very superficial conversation, but we have somebody that's in their own precinct. Well, I'm your neighbor, and I live down the street from you, and I can help you go to the polls. And so this really makes it different. Even at knocking on doors, we have hired people that do like 100 doors in a week. We have precinct people who only do 25 doors because they're sitting there having chai with that person. But having that chai with that person means that they've developed a relationship. They're going to see them at the grocery store. They're going to see them walking their dog, and it's going to cost us less to reach out to that voter. So literally, we had somebody who literally walked her own precinct for the first time, and she said she didn't realize her childhood friend was on the other side of the neighborhood, and so she made a connection, and now that's a really good voter for her. So we think that there's actually 500,000 voters out in Texas, so we're working really hard to do that. So that's going to help all campaigns if we're getting more voters out. We're investing in relationships instead of the transactions that we talked about earlier. Data, we are curating data. Not only are we talking about how many voters we have, but we are working with Tahir to figure out a little bit more information about what specific things the voters are interested in, what it's going to be what they're going to be targeted. So earlier I told you about people that were interested in education. We also want to develop a level of trust so that people trust, because our community is targeted for misinformation and disinformation, and everybody probably experienced that in the 2020 election.